Barristan the Badass. Well, his name is Barristan Selmy, and his real nickname is Barristan the Bold, a name he earned at a very young age. I usually don't do these character profile videos unless Game of Thrones decided to drastically cut their story short on the show, like what they did with the Three-Eyed Raven. Barristan is another one that fits this category. His death on the show was extremely anticlimactic, and very little backstory was shared about his interesting life. At 10 years old, he entered a tourney as a mystery knight. No one took the child seriously, laughing at him, all except the Prince Duncan Targaryen. Duncan jousted the young Barristan and obviously defeated him. He gave him the nickname Barristan the Bold for what he did that day. This wasn't some street kid looking for trouble. House Selmy ruled under the Baratheons in the Stormlands as lords. Barristan was the eldest son and next in line to rule if he never got chosen to join the kingsguard later on in life. When he was 16, he entered another tourney as a mystery knight, and once again faced off against Duncan Targaryen. Not only did he defeat him, but he also defeated the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, Duncan the Tall, who Prince Duncan Targaryen was named after. King Aegon V, impressed with his skill displayed, knighted Barristan himself. He would go on to win multiple tourneys and has defeated the greatest fighters in the Seven Kingdoms, including Robert Baratheon, Oberyn Martell, Rhaegar Targaryen, and even the Hound at age 60. He's been mentioned being the champion of more tourneys than any other character. Even though that doesn't necessarily mean he's won the most, it definitely means something, and it hints at that. He wasn't only a skilled tourney fighter, however. He even had a reputation on the battlefield. Barristan pretty much single-handedly ended one of the biggest threats to ever face Westeros. When a Targaryen bastard believed he should sit on the Iron Throne, he rebelled with his own army under the new name House Blackfyre. The first Blackfyre rebellion was a failure, with many lives lost on both sides. House Blackfyre, who were exiled from the Seven Kingdoms, would continue to be at war with House Targaryen over a few generations. In their fifth rebellion, Maelys Blackfyre, or Maelys the Monstrous, would lead this battle in an attempt to become the king over his Targaryen relatives. Maelys garnered the nickname the Monstrous, and it will make sense once you hear about his appearance, strength, and behavior. He wasn't the only Blackfyre interested in the Iron Throne. His cousin Daemon wanted command over their army, and this led them to a battle where Maelys killed his horse with a single punch, and then twisted his cousin's head off with his bare hands. A true monster. Maelys' mother was expecting twins while carrying him, but while in the womb, Maelys supposedly ate his twin, and to this day has a small fetus head attached to his neck as a deformity. He also has a huge and unproportional upper body, giving him abnormal strength. Barristan, being as bold as he is, stepped up to the challenge and fought Maelys in single combat. He managed to kill the monster and immediately ended the war. What made this win so significant is that this was the last male Blackfyre alive, ending all the Blackfyre rebellions. He became the hero of the Seven Kingdoms, and it wasn't long after that he was sworn in as a member of the Kingsguard under King Jaehaerys II. Jaehaerys II didn't rule for very long, and after he died young, his son Aerys II ascended the Iron Throne. Barristan is one of the infamous noble, honorable characters similar to Ned Stark. Aerys was crazy, but he stayed loyal as one of his Kingsguard, even going to extreme lengths to save his life. He was already a hero for what he did during the war, but what he did during the defiance of Duskendale made him a saint. The Mad King Aerys II was kidnapped while in Duskendale by Lord Darkland. For 6 months, Aerys was held captive, and Tywin Lannister, as Hand of the King, believed it would be best to storm in and attack, which would result in Aerys being murdered. Barristan volunteered to stealthily attempt to save Aerys alone, and Tywin accepted, giving him 1 day. Barristan Selmy dressed as a beggar and climbed his way up the castle walls. He found the dungeons and freed Ares. Everyone that was in his way was slain. Even after the alarm sounded, the only injury inflicted to him was a single arrow to the chest. You finally get to hear more about the human side to this badass during the tourney at Harrenhal. The famous tourney that sparked the events that would lead to Robert's rebellion. He fell in love with Ashara Dane, and even in the current story, still thinks back to her. He kept his feelings silent, remembering his vows as a brother of the Kingsguard. They swear to remain celibate. But he says that if he had won that tourney, he would have chosen her as the Queen of Love and Beauty. Not only does he regret losing to Rhaegar because he couldn't give Ashara that title, but Rhaegar defeating him in the final tilt resulted to Lyanna Stark receiving that title and sparking the rebellion. During Robert's rebellion, he fought alongside Rhaegar in the Trident and was wounded by an arrow, a spear, and a sword. Robert Baratheon respected him like everyone else in the kingdom and had his maester tend to him. Robert even pardoned him and named him Lord Commander of his Kingsguard. He continued to serve with loyalty up until Joffrey came in power. This is my favorite part of the story. When the mental kid became king, he dismissed Sir Barristan, claiming he was old and unable to even defend Robert against the boar.
You have served the realm long and faithfully.
Even at his old age, he was probably still more skilled than the rest of the Kingsguard. Jaime Lannister with both hands would be a good fight, however. What Joffrey and Cersei truly wanted was the Hound on the Kingsguard watching over Joffrey because of his loyalty at the time, and Jaime appointed Lord Commander. This dismissal really set Barristan off, since the vow they take is till death, and was a huge insult on him even after his loyalty. For a second time, we see the human side to Barristan. In his rage, he insinuates Stannis will sit on the Iron Throne and storms out. But even during his rage, he does his duty and writes in the White Book, the book where all the actions of the Kingsguard are recorded by the Lord Commander. Joffrey wants him arrested for what he said, and even without a sword, Selmy kills the men after him. After years of serving kings he believed were unfit, he decides to find a king worthy of a sword. From here, we know what happens next. He initially went to join Viserys, but after he found out he died, he served Daenerys.
You know this man?
I know him. He's one of the greatest fighters the Seven Kingdoms has ever seen.
There are some notable differences with how he served her though. He didn't initially tell her who he was in the books. Under the name Arstan Whitebeard, Selmy traveled with Dany until he was sure she didn't inherit her father's madness. He also didn't want the Lannisters knowing where he was and what he was doing. Without Viserys' life, Barristan became her only connection to her family's true history. He became her Lord Commander of the Queensguard, and when Dany flies off with Drogon, he runs things as the Hand of the Queen instead of being killed by the Sons of the Harpy like in the show. Meereen is in a lot worse shape than it was in the show, and the last book ends with Selmy preparing for war against Yonkai. I just hope he stays alive until Daenerys returns to Meereen, because I always liked their conversations about past Targaryens, and that's the story of Barristan the Badass. I've wanted to make this video for a long time, and even though it isn't the most original topic, I hope you guys enjoyed his story as much as I did.